Hello, today I am talking about pet allergies and eczema. Are you able to keep your pet and heal your eczema? Well, we're going to answer that today. And I know that this is a big topic because out of all my patients, a good number of my patients with eczema do actually have pets. And we do often uncover that the pets are problematic for those with eczema and could be allergies. And we're going to delve into this today because it is something that potentially could be an issue, but you may still be able to keep your pet. And there are different ways that we can do this. So we'll talk about that today. We are going to talk about the pet allergy stats, the types of pet allergens, and not just dogs and cats, because I know that's the most common pets that we have, but other pets that we might have as well too, like birds and other types of pets. And what can you do? Okay, so if you have a pet, this might be an important one to listen to. And we do want to know how much this is causing a problem for you. So we will talk about the testing as well. Okay. All right. So let's talk about these stats. Pet allergies exist in about 10% of the general population, but those with allergic type conditions like eczema or even asthma, we see 40% of these individuals are reacting to their pets, such as cats and dogs. And in my practice, I would say this number is even more. I would say it's almost 100% when I have someone with eczema and they have a cat or a dog or another kind of pet. Often there is an allergy there. Other types of pets like hamsters that aren't walking throughout the home, maybe I'm not seeing as much of that, but definitely cats and dogs that are living inside of the homes. Okay. So for me, clinically, I'm seeing this as a much bigger problem than the 40% that's reported here. There are so many types of pet allergens. Now, that's how we're getting problems here is the allergens that come from the pets. And there are allergens like dander, sebaceous skin secretions, saliva, urine, even feather dust from birds are all types of allergens. So let's first talk about dander because this is really the most common one. These are basically the dead skin scales that are similar to human skin that we also are releasing on a daily basis. But they are smaller than dandruff on a human scalp. So sometimes we can see them, sometimes we don't see them. And usually, about every 21 days, your dogs are just releasing a lot of these dead skin scales, and that is the dander, okay? They circulate into the air, they cling to the drapes, the furniture, the wall coverings. I mean, they are everywhere. And there is no animal that does, cat or dog that, or any animal for that matter, including humans, that is completely free of animal dander, including ourselves. Okay. And occasionally there may be a litter of cats or dogs that have less dander, but this is a rarity and it's not necessarily reproducible through breeding. So, are there any truly hypoallergenic animals? Unfortunately, the answer to this is no. But some do release more dander than others. Some shed more hair than others do. And when more hair is shed, you'll have more dander that's everywhere just because the dander goes along with the hair. So often when when someone says, oh, my dog is hypoallergenic, it just might be that that is a dog breed that doesn't shed as much hair. And therefore, there just might not be as much dander, but there will still be dander. Okay. Now, sebaceous gland secretions is the next type of allergen, and primarily this is a cat allergen that is a glycoprotein that's secreted by the sebaceous glands. And what happens is because the cats are kind of licking themselves, this sebaceous gland secretion dries on the hair, flakes off, and becomes airborne microscopic particles. This is the most potent of all pet related allergens. So, personally, I know this when I had really bad eczema. Cats were the worst. I would have a full on asthma attack when I was around cats, but with dogs, I would be able to be around the dogs, but I would just be, itchy, and I would also have a little bit of a difficult time breathing. But cats, these ones are not easy. So, and I will say that now that my whole load on my immune system is much lower, I do have less of these pet allergies. I will say that there is a threshold. If I can now kind of stay with a pet for a couple of days, but as time goes on, I start to get more and more, sensitive. But I used to not even be able to be around a pet for more than 5 minutes. So, that's because the load on my system has improved. So, this is one of the reasons a lot of people have cat allergies, is actually because of those sebaceous secretions. And the protein is also found in the saliva, and this is because cats are grooming themselves and licking their fur. And again, this dries off and it becomes airborne. So we got those sebaceous secretions. We also got the saliva. And so this is a big problem with cats. They also have the dander issue, but this is an additional issue, which is why cats may actually be, sometimes more of an allergen than dogs. Urinary secretions are another problem, and this is for any type of animal. And these urinary secretions are frequently deposited on the hair, especially long coated pets, where if they aren't cleansed right away, they'll dry on the hair and flake off and circulate in the environment. And urine is a major allergen for the rodent population. So if you have a hamster or a rat or a mice or a gerbil, this could be a big one. And, often when you see a hamster cage, you can smell that urine right off the bat. So just make sure if you do have this type of pet, you're really cleaning that really well. Feather dust from birds is a major allergen that is if you have a bird. Okay, so a few species of parrots, cockatiels, cockatoos, and African grays will have the feather dust problem, and this can also become an allergen too. Okay, so why do we actually have pet allergies? Well, often, again, I always like to say that we have a funnel in our body. A clean body funnel is like what I like to call that. And we're just filling this funnel every single day. So often, the pet is not the only problem, but maybe the person is drinking milk and eating gluten, and they have heavy metal toxicity, and they have a parasite in their system, and they have mold in their system, and they have a dog. And so what happens here is the immune system just gets dysregulated because of these environmental toxins and pollutants. This dysregulates the immune system, making people more prone to allergies or exacerbating existing allergies. And for me, I think genetically, I do have a predisposition for having these allergies, which is another factor here, are genetic factors. But I will say that when I cleaned my funnel, I have less allergies, and even to foods. I used to be allergic to shrimp and crab and lobster, and I can actually now eat these foods. Again, I still have a threshold, so I know how much I can fill my funnel. But, if I'm ever in a state where I'm super stressed, or I've eaten, things I'm not supposed to, which is a rarity. But if I've done all those things, now I tend to have more allergies. So it really truly is about having a clean body. And the cleaner your body, the more regulation you're going to have with your immune system, and the less allergies that you should have. Okay. Also, if we are constantly exposed to these pet allergens, this can sensitize the immune system as well, and just make us more and more sensitive to those allergens. A little bit of exposure sometimes is good, because then we are desensitizing those allergens, but sometimes too much exposure can actually cause sensitization. Okay. And then if you have just a high inflammatory load in general, again, from poor diet, from stress, exposure to so many pollutants, this really makes your system more reactive. So we have to think about the overall picture when we're thinking about our pets and whether we can keep them. We don't always have to get rid of all of the exposures, everything that's causing burden on our system. We just have to get rid of those key factors that might be causing our inflammatory load to be so high. So that's a really important note is if you want to keep your pet, then we got to deal with everything else that could be causing an issue, okay? And there could also be it could be beneficial to, remove yourself from that exposure for a little bit, the exposure to the pet. So, what can you do? Well, let's get tested for allergies first of all. You can do this with a blood test. I often do this with a blood test for my patients. I will test IgE levels. That is an allergy to some of these proteins that we were talking about, like the salivary protein, the glycoprotein that comes from the cats, that's in the saliva and the sebaceous glands, the dander proteins, the urine proteins, all of these we can test to see if we have any allergies, okay? But then we also want to assess the overall exposures, as I mentioned, because the overall exposures and overall inflammatory load can cause us to be more allergenic. So we want to look at toxins and gut health. And then we want to address all of these other factors to make sure we're lowering that overall inflammatory load. But then we also want to make sure that we're decreasing that load from the pet. So if you have a dog or a cat or a hamster or something like that, you do want to make sure to just keep them as clean as possible. The one problem is that we're not really supposed to be, cleansing these pets or grooming them so often because they do need those oils on their skin and it can be harmful for them if you are doing too much cleansing. But there are ways to actually just wipe down your pet, and there are products that are natural that actually they denature those proteins that like the dander and the glycoprotein from the cats that might be causing allergy. And there are two companies I really like, Allerpet and Ecology Works. If you go to my product recommendations, which is cleanbody.health/products, and you go to home, home and office, you can scroll all the way down and you can just see my recommendations there. You do need to get an air filter because all of these proteins are circulating through the air if you have a pet. Open those windows, clean and vacuum 1 to 2 times per week. Don't let those pets get onto your surfaces like your couch, your mattresses, and make sure you are vacuuming those or steam cleaning them or using those neutralizing products that I told you about where you can spray those areas for kind of neutralizing these proteins that are causing allergy. Okay, so it's kind of a two-pronged approach. The first thing is, okay, let's make sure that we can get those allergens down, your exposure to those allergens, as we heal everything else and get that inflammatory load down. And the pet is only one part of that inflammatory load. Now, I have had some patients who have decided that they're and I typically recommend at least 3 months, is to decrease the exposure completely if possible. I've had some patients move their dogs into the garage. I've had some patients who have given their dogs to a family member for 3 months and then gotten their home thoroughly cleaned from a company that focuses on allergy cleaning. And I have had some patients who have given their pets away, unfortunately, because they have noticed such an improvement. And, it's just not, unfortunately, worth it in the end to have their child have so much eczema and inflammation in the body. And of course, that's not available to everybody because I know your pets become part of your family. So, it's something that you can kind of go stepwise is first of all, just clean up the environment, see if that improves. Next, maybe move the pet outdoors or into the garage. Next, maybe, you know, let the pet live somewhere else for a couple months. Those are all options. And often my patients will see improvement within 3 weeks of not having exposure to that pet. I will say, though, you do have to clean really well. That dander and all of those proteins that we talked about are in all of the porous materials in your home. So, steam cleaning is really great. Spraying neutralizing products could be great. And working with a company, even who can focus on neutralizing all these proteins in your home might be important because you've now taken out the pet, but you do need to make sure that you aren't still living in an environment with all these proteins because they can stick around even after the pet is gone. Okay. So you want to, again, bathe or wipe the coat down for your animals once or twice a week. I would say twice would be my preference. Start this early in the animal's life so that they get used to it, and then brush at least once a week so that the hair, you're kind of taking out the hairs. Do it outside if possible. And the goal is to remove the offending allergens before they have a chance to enter your environment. Okay. So check out those products so that you can understand how to just review those products on my product recommendations page. All right, and finally, we have cat litter. So I recommend doing unscented cat litter. Fragranced cat litter can be pretty toxic. Clumping litter is virtually dust free, so that's a good option too. And you can choose litter pearls or all natural litters made from a variety of substances that come in the form of pellets, flakes, and granules. This is something to think about too, because that could be a form of toxicity, and a way that you're getting allergens is through your cat litter. Okay. So if you have a pet, my answer is, it's possible you can still keep your pet, but you do have to take measures to limit your exposure while you are healing, to assess the other causes of the inflammatory load in your environment, in your system, and you need to take measures to clean all of that up. And then we need to heal the system. And if the system can heal and the immune system can become, more regulated, then the pet might be able to come back. And you still have to maintain all the cleanliness that we talked about, because there will be that threshold again. Okay. So I have had patients who have been very successful with this. I have also had patients who have just decided it's not worth it. Everybody's a little bit different, and you have to think about your family and what's right for you. Okay. So I hope this is really helpful. And, if you have a pet, if you have questions, definitely reach out. You can reach out to me on Instagram. You can reach out to me on YouTube. You can also book a one-on-one consultation with me if you want to have me assess you and see if pets are a big problem for you. Okay. All right. So if you have not taken my eczema root cause assessment yet, that's a good place to start to just understand whether there's other loads on your system other than the pet. And if you do decide to book a one-on-one consultation with me, definitely use the code IG10 so that you can get 10% off, and you can DM me and I can give you the link, or the link is also in my bio. Okay. So let's open it up to some questions now. If you have any questions, please go ahead and type into the chat box. I am happy to answer all the questions that you guys have. We're talking about pet allergies and eczema, but you are free to ask me any questions about eczema or anything at all. Okay. So it doesn't just need to be about pet allergies. But if you have any questions about pet allergies, I am happy to answer those. I do want to let you know too that I also wrote a blog on this. So if you are interested in getting the full blog and reading this, and then also even getting a copy of this live, definitely you can message me, DM me, or comment on my last post, pets, and I will send that to you. And all of these lives that I do every week are posted on my podcast, which is called Live with the Eczema Doc. So if you have not followed me yet, definitely on all podcast platforms, check out my podcast. And if you have eczema, you'll get all the information you need there to truly heal your skin from the inside out. Okay. All right. Any questions, any comments, any concerns, please go ahead and type into the comments box now. I will go ahead and wait to see if there are any questions here. Otherwise, thank you so much for joining me today. And definitely reach out if you have any questions. If you have pets and you don't really know what to do, I'm happy to answer any questions about my experience with working with people who have had pets. How successful have we been? What have we needed to do? And we can chat a little bit about that if you DM me. Okay. I don't see any questions coming up though. So if you do end up having questions, please DM me, just message me on Instagram, on YouTube. are fine places to message me, and I personally will answer your questions there. Okay. Thank you so much for joining me today. And again, it looks like there's no questions coming up. And SR21 Ramirez, you're very welcome. I'm glad to hear that you learned some things, and hopefully, it helps you on your journey to